Hello, welcome to Friday's Cyber Bites webinar. I'm thrilled to have that you were able to join us. My name is Liz Syka, and I'll be your host. We have a great topic and two expert speakers to talk about it. So without any further ado, today's session is titled Creative Approaches to Keeping Cybersecurity Awareness Engaging. And we are fortunate to have two of our VCSOs, Bob Chyka and Frank Dorigo, both with slightly different backgrounds. Bob specializes in K through 12, higher ed, municipalities, and Frank comes from a background of K through 12, medical imaging, and Department of Defense manufacturing. Here's how today's session will unfold. Our team will present for about 20 minutes, followed by a live Q&A session where you can ask your questions directly. We encourage you to participate throughout and don't hesitate to share your thoughts through our Q&A panel. As for housekeeping, just a couple of quick notes before we begin. The session will be recorded and we'll share the recording with you afterwards. If you have any technical issues, message us in the chat. As mentioned, we'll have Q&A at the end, so submit those questions. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to the team.
Good morning, everyone. If you didn't know it before, in 2023, there was a staggering 82% of cyber attacks were due to human actions. Now, this includes mistakes like falling for phishing scams, using weak passwords, or simply making a configuration error. And this aligns with other studies that show that the majority of cyber incidents were directly related to human error. And that's what we're here to talk about today. We're going to talk about cybersecurity education and the vital role it plays in protecting all of our systems. We've heard it before, but cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue. It's a people issue. And each of us has a part to play. So let's keep it fresh, let's keep it engaging, and let's make sure that cybersecurity is top of mind, not just for today, but every day. So in previous Cyber Bites presentations, Courtney and Nick discussed alternatives, social engineering tactics, and common ways hackers break in. If you couldn't attend either of those presentations, check them out at Sidara's YouTube channel. You'll never trust a QR code again. So today we're shifting our focus from red team activities to blue team or defensive security strategies, and among these are security awareness and training. So what's it all about? So awareness and training really is about the process of educating individuals within an organization about the importance of information security and equipping them with the knowledge and the skills to recognize, prevent, respond to potential security threats. Frequently, these are delivered via third-party providers, which includes simulated phishing emails and video-based training videos. However, there are alternatives. And we really want to reinforce alternative methods. And we're going to get to that a little bit later on.
Good morning, everybody. So the question that I often get asked is, why is it important? Why do we need to do this? So here's a list of 6 of the most important reasons that I've come across and that we practice here at Sidara. So I'll go through each of these briefly. So it minimizes human error. A large percentage of security breaches occur to human mistakes, such as clicking on phishing links, which we've all probably have come across in our life, or weak password practices. So this just isn't only about how to protect and educate our users on how to deal with phishing emails, but also other cybersecurity practices that we should follow and implement, like weak passwords. Training helps employees recognize risks and avoid common mistakes. Humans can either be your weakest or one of your strongest pieces in your security stack. Training and educating our stakeholders can help shift them out of the weak category. It also helps prevent security breaches. Employees become the first line of defense against cyber attacks. Awareness and training can help them identify suspicious activities early, reducing the likelihood of breaches. Also, compliance with regulations. Many laws and industry standards require organizations to provide security training to employees to protect sensitive data. Some examples of laws and standards that require security awareness and training are GDPR, HIPAA, and ISO 27001, amongst others. And now most of us are finding that cyber insurance applications are asking whether or not your company or organization has a cybersecurity awareness and training program. It also helps protect organizational reputation. Data breaches can harm an organization's reputation. By ensuring employees are aware of best security practices, the organization reduces the likelihood of a publicized breach that could damage trust with customers or stakeholders. We all know what happens to companies that have been breached, and their name of the company or CEO or a security team winds up in the paper or a news article. If you're involved in sales, you can see an effect of sales on your products. You know, if you're in a K through 12 institution or a higher ed and PII gets exposed, you could feel the pain of the trust from parents, amongst other things. Or if you're a public company, you know what happens to your stock. It also encourages a security culture. When all members of an organization are aware of and invested in security, a culture of vigilance and responsibility is created, reducing overall risk. As leaders, one of our goals should be always to develop a security-centric culture, and providing security awareness and training to our employees is the first step in building that. And finally, cost savings. Preventing security incidents through training is far more cost-effective than dealing with the aftermath that some of us have been exposed to from a breach, such as legal fees, penalties, and remediation costs. The report from IBM just came out. The average cost of a data breach jumped 10% from 2023 to 2024 to an average of 4.88 million. So this just isn't for ransomware. When people see figures like $4.8 million from a security breach, they automatically think ransomware. But this also includes phishing, malware, compromised credentials, etc. So everybody has, well, not everybody, but a lot of companies have seen security programs that'll send you a video or a test to take, either monthly or quarterly. And over time, this isn't really an engaging way to get people involved and stay committed to your cybersecurity programs. So we're going to discuss a couple proven ways to accomplish your security awareness and training goals using engaging methods that have worked in the field. The first one, use interactive videos that drive engagement. Develop or choose short, entertaining videos that depict real-life cybersecurity scenarios. Interactive elements, such as choosing different outcomes based on decisions, can help employees understand the impact of their actions on cybersecurity. We all know what happens. We all have a pile of work to do. And if we just get a canned video without interaction, it kind of plays on our second or third monitor while we continue to do our work. Thus, our stakeholders are not absorbing any of the content. So using interactive videos will help drive engagement. Cybersecurity simulations. So it's been proven that creating simulated environments where employees can practice handling cybersecurity threats, such as phishing attacks or malware infections, is very effective. There are human risk assessment tools that offer real-life scenarios in a safe, blame-free environment. Reward systems. Implement a reward system for completing cybersecurity training modules or demonstrating good cybersecurity practices. It just doesn't have to be that somebody completed a video or a training course where you get scored or assessed on. But if you see something as you walk around your company or organization, somebody that's being vigilant with a cybersecurity practice, reward them. It goes a long way. Rewards can include digital badges, certificates, or even tangible prizes like gift cards or pizza parties. The stakeholders who have received awards can be recognized on digital signage methods, in newsletters at your company, on company intranets, portals, or in meetings. Cybersecurity trivia sessions. So host cybersecurity trivia games to test employees' knowledge of security practices and policies. These can be conducted through online quizzes or in-person competitions. Prizes always help keep people engaged for additional learning. The in-person sessions are usually more fun and engaging and effective because you can learn from others and interact with your colleagues. And finally, leaderboards. Establish leaderboards to track progress and foster healthy competition among employees or departments. This can motivate employees to complete their cybersecurity training and continuously improve their security practices. Leaderboards naturally drive competition, and people want to be on these lists. Leaderboards, too, can be posted on digital signage, communicated in newsletters, mentioned at meetings, and posted in portals.
Okay, so Bob just laid out 5 different ways to drive that engagement. But you have to get the message out too. You have to let people know what you're doing, why you're doing it. And so there's a lot of creative ways to do that. Probably first on this list is get some help, right? A lot of us are cybersecurity experts, right? We're not marketing experts. And this is what we're really talking about. So engage with your marketing team. Bring them to the table. Make sure they understand exactly why you're trying to do what you're doing. Let them understand who needs to be trained on what topics. Let them put together a training or a marketing campaign for you or with you. So they're a really important partner in this. When you do a training campaign, let's suppose every month you're going to do a different topic. Let's say it's password security. Before that campaign starts, lead with an email to the company. Explain to them what you're doing, why this is important to the company, and what to expect next. So frequently we have seen those trainings underperform because people report them as a phish or as a spam, and they don't take the training. So let them know ahead of time. Bob mentioned a couple of times digital signage. We found this to be a very effective mechanism for getting the message out. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Companies usually have intranet homepages. Yours probably does too. So work with the intranet team to actually have some real estate carved out on the homepage for security. That content can change over time, but having a place mark on that homepage makes sure that it gets viewed frequently. Some companies use application portals, which host links to internal applications. That's another great resource to put a panel up on that particular screen. So if you haven't seen the concept now, it's always drive continuous visibility to what you're trying to do. And finally, several HRIS applications will provide pop-ups upon login. Usually that's message of the day. There's absolutely no reason that couldn't be a security message of the day too. The bottom line is when you're trying to get the word out, you've got to keep it fun. You've got to make it accessible and relevant and updated. That's the only way to really make it consumable. So on this slide, we're actually showing 2 different digital signage materials. So we have focused on this case on password security and phishing. A couple of things to keep in mind. People are not going to spend a lot of time looking at digital signage. So you've got to hit them with the relevant information quickly. So keep a bulleted list, just a few items that they can walk away with. The other thing is you've got to drive home the message of how to communicate whenever there's a cybersecurity risk. A lot of companies will have email addresses. Maybe it's security@mycompany.com. Make sure it's visible. Make sure people understand when they report something to that email address, you're alerting the IT. Okay, so at Sidara, we believe donuts can change the world. Well, not really. but at least it can help keep cybersecurity top of mind. If you want to learn more about this, visit our blog and check it out. To make it easy, just scan the QR code and read about how we use donating as a reward mechanism for people that need a little bit more education around blocking computers. You'll see what I mean when you go to the site.
Okay, so a very common question and sometimes an issue is who should own security awareness and training? So security awareness and training should be owned by the security or IT team and HR. It's important to get HR involved in this. And the chart below kind of outlines, it's not a complete chart, but some of the key components of the responsibilities of both the HR department and the security or IT department. I know some companies don't have a separate security department, so that could be your IT department also. So HR deals with compliance, incentives, and adoption, and the security or IT department will deal with campaign development, phishing investigations. So that's when a user gets a phishing email or what they think is a phishing email, and they hit the nice button to submit it to IT or the security team for investigation. That's the role of the IT or security team for phishing investigation and application support. There's other roles that need to be performed by both, but those are 6 of the core roles and responsibilities that we found. Another really effective way to not just build, but to communicate and practice and make your security awareness training program really effective is to form a steering committee. They're charged with providing training, and some of their roles of the steering committee, once built, will be to promote a strong security culture, minimize risks related to human error, and ensure compliance with regulatory and organizational security requirements. And it's important for the steering committee to get people involved outside of IT. I mean, you need IT, security, and HR people on the committee, but it's important to get stakeholders from other departments to help communicate and foster the program and make it more effective. So that it just isn't an HR and IT and security thing. The steering committee should have stakeholders from different departments to make your program more effective. So wrapping up, I know we've gone through a lot in a little bit of time at a high level. So remember, security awareness and training just doesn't happen. It requires leadership commitment from senior management. You need that backbone and support from senior leaders, directors, and managers in order to make security and awareness training programs successful. Requires commitment from managers to reinforce a cybersecurity culture. It also requires a personal commitment to practice the behaviors taught and to knowledge share throughout your departments. It's really important to take your small victories and build upon those and turn them into larger victories to help accomplish your goals of cybersecurity awareness and training. And another really important one, sometimes people will say, oh, I'm so busy at work, I don't want to take another role on or do another task, even though it involves protecting the organization or company. But these are really life skills nowadays. The skills learned at work will also protect your family and yourself from online threats and how you manage your own systems that you subscribe to or banking, et cetera, in your private life. So this isn't just a workplace initiative. It should follow through and carry through to your real life to stay protective. Your outside life to stay protected. And what we've talked about are proven tactics for improving cybersecurity awareness and training. If you ever need any more depth on any of these, you could email Frank or myself. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed our presentation in a short amount of time at a high level. And now I think we are opening it up to questions, and I'll hand it back over to Liz.
Thanks, guys. That was a terrific presentation. I just have to laugh because maybe the donuts were something that I had a picture of. Because maybe it was my donuts. But it definitely does do a lot for changing the culture. People are so much more aware of what's happening and what they're doing and that they're locking their computers, and it just keeps things top of mind all the time. All right, so let's take a look at some of the questions we have. All right, Bob, I'm going to put this one to you. Or we'll start with you, Bob. Frank, you're next. What is the most creative cybersecurity awareness training thing that you've had in your career or seen?
That's a good question because at other places I worked for or consulted for, you're always constantly thinking of ways to keep people engaged and keeping your program effective. And the one place we used to get really ugly colored t-shirts when people just wouldn't listen to us, or they would keep repeating bad habits with their security posture. And we would have different slogans on them, but the most popular one was "Security is not a convenience." And I know many of my customers are on here. They've heard me say that multiple times because they deal with people not wanting to change their workflows during the day for security in order to enable better security controls. And so we used to hand those out to the complainers that said, I've been doing things this way for the past 15, 10, 15, 20 years. And ugly t-shirts, handing those out kind of resonate with people and they don't forget about them. So that's one
Nice.
of my effective methods that have worked in the past.
Frank, it's on you.
Yeah, Liz, we're gonna need some ugly t-shirt budget money going forward. So for me, you know, you really want to make sure that the training matches the culture of the company. Some organizations just want the facts, right? Just bullet point for me what I need to be doing differently. And others want something more engaging. And so what we've seen is that organizations that adopt the wrong strategy, their engagement really starts to decline. So make sure that you understand exactly where you work and find something that matches.
Nice. Okay, we have another question. And I'll let you guys decide who's best to answer this. But how do you convince companies to purchase cyber insurance?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a great
Frank,
question.
Frank, I'll give my take
Sure.
and then I'll hand it off to you. So yeah, I think it really requires an education on cyber insurance. Cyber insurance has evolved so much in the past 10 years. It really has. And as you can see from my one slide, the average cost of a data breach went up from 2023 to 2024 by 10%. So, you know, cyber insurance, and that's just for a single breach. Some companies have multiple breaches per year, unfortunately. So I think the education piece and bringing real life scenarios to the table in front of leadership and the board and get them to really understand why it's a necessity and not a nice to have piece nowadays, or policy to have nowadays. There really shouldn't be any company that should not at least look at it and entertain it, even small companies. I know if I owned a company, even if it was a 4 or 5 person company, I would have cyber insurance, just because we've seen the damage and the financial damage that it's done to companies that we know of or have dealt with. Frank, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, I think your point about having the right people in the room make that decision is very valid. And the way that you communicate to a board or to the executive team is through risk. And so they might see risk in terms of lost production, but there's also a lot of reputational risk. And I think you touched on that in an earlier slide. It really does come down to awareness. It really comes down to trying to quantify exactly what the cost of a remediation could be. Bob's right. Organizations that make that investment in cyber insurance are much better positioned when and if an event does happen.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. If we have any more questions, we've got maybe a minute or so. I'll wait. Okay, how do you capture a baseline of where your security culture is at?
Boy, if that was an easy question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult, right? I mean, one of the things is, we talk about 3 different kind of metrics to use to baseline yourself against, right? So one is the phishing click rate. So how often do people actually click a test phish? And we've set some guidelines around where we think a company should be after about a year's worth of training. Likewise, reporting phishing is another skill that has to be learned. And so traditionally, people don't do that. It might be a conversation within an office. Oh, I just got this phishing email, but it's that message is not spread wider. And so if you want to change the culture around this, you need to measure and incent people to raise their hand and tell you when there's something that's gone a little bit askew. And so we have a metric around that as well. And finally, training. So what we like to do is to see a minimum level of training completed every month or whatever time period you think is appropriate for your company. In my case, I've seen examples where companies that have really embraced this have really reduced their phish click rate, which is a primary measure, to about a 1%. And this is a company that started, much higher than that. So it is very possible to measure the effectiveness of this, but establishing a baseline is going to be one of the first things you do when you roll out a program.
Anything to add, Bob?
No, I think that's good. I think I was looking at the question from a different perspective, like how do you measure? We talked about establishing a cyber security-centric culture, and how do you measure that? Yeah, and that's really hard to measure, but you could tell when you start communicating and educating. Just being aware when you go through your company, how people have changed some of their habits, like when they get up from their desk, they're locking their screens so that confidential or PII isn't exposed to people who might wander into their office. So I look at things like that too, just from observation, how people have changed their habits, not writing their passwords under their keyboard, and doing audits on passwords at the company, things like that. So I think Frank hit the nail on the head. How to measure the phishing behavior baselines and how to establish and measure that part of the culture. But I also things are very visual too in the cybersecurity world. Some of the things that are taught or should be taught to establish that culture, you could observe a lot of them too.
Gotcha. Wonderful. All right, we are at the top of the hour. If you haven't already, please sign up for our next week's webinar, Ask Me Anything, our panel of CISOs, where we will reach out and get a question or two for the attendees prior to the webinar and discuss those topically during the event. We thank you for your attendance. I thank you guys for presenting today, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Always go Bills.
Go Bills.